Hey guys, welcome to my short training on why BNI and how to use BNI to succeed in your small business and have more income, more impact, and more freedom. And I think we all want that. So let's jump straight into it. First of all, why go all in on BNI? Without networking, guess what happens? We're left with digital marketing as as a main option to be able to market our business and get our word out. Now, digital marketing, I believe, is really, really powerful and everyone should be onto it. But to master digital marketing, it can be very complicated, very stressful, very expensive. And even when you do spend a lot of money on it, sometimes you get crickets, which means you get no leads and you get no sales and you get no money. The other thing is sales can be awkward, stressful, and confusing when there's no relationship, right? And that's a very, very difficult. And BNI gives you the opportunity to build that relationship. So with that BNI, sometimes sales can be really, really difficult. The other thing is with that BNI, you might not have your own sales team that goes out and spreads your word in a way that you don't have to spend a lot of money hiring your own staff, right? And with that BNI, BNI can be business can be a lonely game, especially during the lockdown period. And we're all human beings. We all need encouragement, love, connection, support. And with that BNI, sometimes it's difficult to be able to have that. And the other problem is with that BNI, we don't, sometimes if we don't grow without having the right environment, our business is not going to grow. And BNI gives us the right environment and the right education and the right people to be able to allow ourselves to grow, to be able to develop ourselves and our mindset, our health, our ideas, to be able to allow ourselves to grow. So ultimately our business can grow and expand as well, right? So that's what happens sometimes if we don't have BNI. But if we do go all in on BNI, guess what happens? Marketing becomes simple, effective, and reliable, which means that we get more leads, more sales, and ultimately more money for your business. When you implement BNI and you go all in, sales can be simple, friendly, money-making conversations, right? And BNI makes it easy to do that. And the other thing is you can, with BNI, you can have your own personal sales team that's actually working for you, which you don't actually have to expend any money for. And that sounds good. The other thing is business becomes a team sport with a supporting and loving community that actually have your back. And that's why BNI is especially important during the lockdown period as well. And ultimately, we want an educational environment which equals personal growth, which equals business growth. And BNI gives us the perfect environment for something like that, right? So we can see why BNI is especially important, especially during the lockdown time and in general, right? So a couple of myths and mistakes, right, that people make when it comes to BNI and implementing it so ultimately you can have more impact, income, and freedom in your small business. First of all, if you need business and you don't join, that's the biggest mistake that you can make. Now, if for whatever reason you have too much capacity and you don't have time to spend an extra 2-3 hours a week on being able to grow your business, totally cool. Nothing wrong with that, right? But if you do need business and you don't join, biggest mistake because you could be missing out on opportunity. Doing BNI half-heartedly. You can join BNI, but if you're doing it half-heartedly, guess what's happening? Going to happen. You're not going to get results. And when you don't get results, right, guess what happens? You're not going to feel good. You're going to be wasting your time. You're going to be wasting your money. And you're going to be thinking to yourself, well, it's just because of BNI, when sometimes it's got to do with me or us. And the reason why I know this is because I used to do that. I spent 6 months in BNI just doing things half-heartedly. And I also spent another 6 months and longer than that going all out, and I saw the big difference in my life. So I'm sure that's a very, very good point to consider. The other mistake is to make excuses that it doesn't work for you because you didn't put in the effort. And, I see this all the time. I'll notice that there's a BNI person who comes in and he's a marketer and he says, oh, it's the worst. It just doesn't work for my industry. And I'll also see another marketer where it does work for them. Then I'll see like a mechanic that says BNI doesn't work for me. And I'll also see a mechanic where it does work for them. So I started to see that it wasn't necessarily BNI was the problem. It was just the way that we approached BNI, the perspective that we had on BNI that actually paused us and stopped us from being able to use BNI to have more income, more impact, and more freedom in our small business. Now, the other thing is not caring about others like you care about yourself. This is a word that's written in the Bible, but it's such a beautiful thing that's been brought to life, because if you care about others and you give referrals to others, naturally, it is a proven method. It is a law that you will get what you give. Okay. And you can see it many times. And just because people play the short game and they want referrals immediately, they don't see that by serving later on down the track in the long term, they're going to get the fruit by doing that. So caring about others is actually caring about yourself. And finding it complicated and not seeking help. Now, BNI can be complicated at times if you don't really understand it or you haven't really seeked out the right advice. And if that's the case, and you're not seeking help to be able to, utilize it effectively to make more income, get more leads, get more sales, then I guarantee you guys, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not seeking help for that, because it's an easy fix. So there's a couple of the mistakes. Now, I want to talk about this, right? In life, no matter what we want to do, in health, in wealth, in relationships, we all want a result. We all want a place that we want to be, right? We all want a result. We want a result. Now, we all know that if we want to get a particular type of result, we have to take a particular type of action. If I want a lot of sales, that means I have to make a lot of sales calls. If I want more opportunity to put myself out there to find a partner, that means I have to really put myself out there, right? So ultimately, the bigger results that you want, or the higher quality of results that you want, the more action or the higher quality action that you have to put in. Now, we all know this, right? But here's what sometimes happens. What determines our action is the story that we tell ourselves. If I told myself the story that, I'm just big boned and, it's my genetics that has kept me obese, how likely am I to put in action and to be able to lose weight and get that result of losing weight? Not likely. If, I got dumped by my girlfriend a couple of years ago, and the story I told myself is all girls are bad, then how likely is it going to be that I'm going to put myself out there and take action? Not likely. And what's going to happen to the results? You're not going to get any results. You're not going to find love. And then guess what that does to the story? It's a feedback, and it comes back and it confirms the story. And you say, yeah, see, I told you so. Now let's take BNI. You might tell yourself the story that BNI doesn't work for my industry. BNI is just not working right now. It's just a waste. Now, if you tell yourself that story, how much effort are we going to be putting in? Not that much at all. And if you don't put in that much effort, you don't do your one-to-ones, you don't put in, you don't do your attendance, then you're not going to get any results. And then what typically happens is that result comes back to the story and goes, see, I told you BNI doesn't work. And this is the circle that that vicious circle that sends us down a spiral and stops us from having the impact, the income, and the influence and the freedom that we could probably be having in our small businesses, right? So what I want you guys to understand that, yes, this is in BNI, but this is in life in general as well, right? So that's one of the mistakes. Now, again, what we got to understand is if we want to take control and succeed at BNI, the first thing that we're going to have to do is to be able to tell ourselves a new story, because we are defined by the stories that we tell ourselves. So the first thing that I'd love of you guys to do is to consider, what is the story that you're telling yourself about your own business? What is the story that you're telling yourself about the way BNI works? Because that will probably be defining the way or the results that you're actually getting in BNI. So that's one thing I'd love you guys to consider. Now that we've understood the story, let's jump into what it does take to succeed at BNI. So ultimately, we want success at BNI, which means that we want leads, we want sales, and we want money so we can have more impact, more influence, and more freedom in our personal lives and for others around us, right? So here are the three biggest mistakes that I see that stop us from making money in BNI. First is no one knows you enough to refer to you. I don't even need to explain that. If no one knows you, they're not going to refer to you. You're not even putting yourself in front of someone. The second problem is that your chapter doesn't grow. Now, what we may not understand is that if our chapter is not growing, that means that we are limiting the amount of network that we can bring in, which is actually stopping us from having more referrals for ourselves, right? Because we don't have as much opportunity, right? Think about that. If our chapter is not growing, at some point our chapter is going to die, which means that our lead flow, our referrals is going to get cut off. Or if our chapter is going very, very slowly, then that means we still have less leads for ourselves. And that's a very, very important thing to consider, that our chapter not growing is actually directly affecting our money in our business. And the other thing is sometimes your chapter can look weak and frail. And if a chapter is looking weak and frail to the visiting members or anyone who comes in, no one's going to want to join. And if no one wants to join, our chapter won't grow. And if our chapter won't grow, then we don't get leads. So the beauty of life is that it's not just about us and what we're putting in. It's also about our chapter's growth and the way our chapter looks, because that ultimately is going to allow us to make the money that we want to make in our small businesses. Now, what do we want instead? Instead of no one referring to you, no one knowing you, we want to become a referral magnet. Instead of not having a chapter that's growing, which ultimately affects you, we want a booming chapter growth. Instead of having a chapter that looks weak and frail, we want a healthy chapter, because ultimately that allows us to succeed in BNI and have more leads, more sales, and more income for your small business. Now, how do we do this? First of all, 2 steps. You got to attend, right? If you attend, you show up. And these days they say on average, to be able to get from, a customer first hearing about you to becoming a sale and them giving you your credit card, that takes roughly these days, it used to be 4 touch points, but now it's 20 touch points, right? Now, if you're coming to BNI and you're only turning up once or twice, you are not making it optimal for you to be able to have enough touch points to actually make sales, right? So you can't be a referral magnet unless you actually attend. And that's the first thing that needs to be done. The second thing is one-to-ones. Again, it's the touch point conversation. And ultimately, people buy from people we know, like, and trust. And the only way to do that is to build familiarity. How do we build familiarity? Meeting people, getting to know them one-on-one. Here's the thing. There's a lot of plumbers, engineers, and all these different people that are better. They could be better than us. They could be the best. But why do we always seem to refer to the people that we know? Because we know, like, and trust them, because we're familiar with them. So that's why one-to-ones are extremely important. And you follow those 2 steps, you'll become a referral magnet. Now, how do we have booming chapter growth? The first thing is we invite visitors. When we invite visitors, ultimately our chapter grows. And second thing is we try to give referrals. Notice I didn't say give referrals. I just said try to give referrals, because that increases the chances of us getting referrals. And when that happens, we have a booming chapter. The second step is to have a healthy chapter, which would be having your admin. When you do your admin, your chapter looks healthy. When your chapter looks healthy, other people want to join. Other people want to join. You get a better, referral network, which ultimately means more money for me. So the other thing, how do we do that? And the second thing is CUs. We need to be able to educate ourselves and have the right education to succeed at BNI and in personal life. So ultimately, we can build a business that gets us more money and allows us to succeed, to have more impact, income, and freedom as well. Okay. So you can see very, very clearly, if we follow these 2 steps, you become a referral magnet. If we follow these 2 steps, we become a booming chapter growth. If we follow these 2 steps, we have a healthy chapter. If we follow those 3 things, we succeed in BNI and make more money. And I think that sounds pretty good. Now, one of the things we have to understand when you start BNI is that all of your effort will not pay off now. In fact, I want you guys to understand that this phenomenon, that hard work only pays off 6 to 9 months later, is not just in BNI, it's in life, right? But especially BNI. I'll give you guys an example. When I used to go to the gym, and what used to happen was I used to lift the weights. I used to get a pump. So I used to go in the mirror and I used to be like, oh man, this feels so good, right? And the next day when I wake up, I wouldn't have the pump anymore. When I looked in the mirror, I'd feel bad and I would actually give up, because I'd say, this is not working. I'm going to this gym. I'm not getting these muscles. It's not instant. And I used to give up very, very easily. When I learned this principle that says that hard work doesn't pay off now, it only pays off 6 to 9 months later, guess what started happening? I went to the gym and I would go to the gym and I wouldn't see that pump I wanted to, but I'd be like, oh, well, it's only going to pay off 6 to 9 months later. So I stuck with it. And when I stuck with it, guess what happened? 6 to 9 months later, I got muscly. I got bigger, right? Now, it's the same in BNI. If you're coming to BNI and you're thinking, oh, what should happen is I should just start off like this. I should just go like this. It's not going to happen, right? Instead, what we need to do is adjust our expectation and realize at the start, nothing's going to happen. But it's about being consistent, and later on things are going to go up and we are going to succeed, right? Me personally, even these last 3 weeks, I closed 30K worth of referrals from BNI. Sorry, no, 25 actually was from BNI. The 5 was for somewhere else. But the point is, hard work only pays off 6 to 9 months later. So if we take this model and we apply it in BNI, you've got everything that you need for success. So now that you know why it's important, how to actually succeed in BNI, the myths and mistakes, why most people give up and what you need to do instead, you have everything. All we need to do right now is you might be thinking to yourself, what do I need to, what do I need to focus on? And, I know what I need to focus on, Kevin, but where do I start? It's simple. Go to your chapter president, ask them how you can be utilizing the power of BNI to grow your business fast and effectively by using these 6 steps. And when you do that and you implement the 6 steps, it means more money from you. Hope that was valuable, guys. Hope you guys can see that BNI is probably one of the most effective ways to be able to succeed in making money, in building a community. And those 2 things are especially important in the lockdown period. So I highly suggest that you get connected with the BNI and you find out how to go all in BNI. All the best, guys. I hope that was valuable. Thank you. Bye.